Anata wa anime untucked to kitemasu. You're listening to Anime Untucked. In this podcast, we'll not only discuss anime and the characters, but we'll dive deeper. We'll discuss the backstories, plots, and even hidden symbols. If that's something that interests you, then this is the podcast for you.
So just for the audience there, kind of like a model on the side, and I mentioned before, I'm a physicist. So two very different worlds. If anybody wants to follow me, I'm at model underscore T Kirk. That's TKIRK on Instagram. And just to give you a background of myself, I've been watching anime and reading manga ever since I was quite young. I mean, I got drawn in pretty much like most Americans with Dragon Ball. So I'm basically from that era to give you also to kind of date myself.
And notice he didn't say Dragon Ball Z. He said Dragon Ball. Okay.
Right, Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball Z was a hip thing to me. Yeah, so I would say right now, Chainsaw Man it's up there as one of my favorites. It depends what it's more with the type. The anime that I really love right now is actually Eminence in Shadow.
I've
I
never heard of
really
that.
recommend people to watch it. It's because the reason I like it is similar to one of the reasons I like Chainsaw Man. And Chainsaw Man is kind of like an anti-shonen. Shonen is what's really popping right now in anime. And it kind of takes this and flips it on its side and makes something very successful.
Mm.
The reason I say this is if you look at some of the popular shonen right now, My Hero Academia and Black Clover, you have these really noble heroes and they, they would sacrifice themselves for to save the world, the very hero style because they come from the genre where heroes, I mean, My Hero Academia, it's in the name. It's for that ideal type of hero in a shonen. And then you have Chainsaw Man, which really flips it on its head. I mean, as you pointed out, people view this guy as a scumbag. And when you first see him, you probably have a low impression of him, but then he really grows on you. And the protagonist has not very positive qualities. And that's something very new, I would say. I don't know many shonen that have this, so I think he really flipped it on its head.
I don't know if you remember, but like the first scene, it was basically someone, I don't think we know who it is, but they're basically kind of like turning a door and kind of like we hear the door opening. So as someone who, without giving like spoilers away, as someone who's read the manga and is a little bit more further ahead than most of us, can you give us some type of like what is your idea about that whole scene? Does it have any type of like representation or any meaning behind it?
Well, it certainly has some significant meaning to it. And my impression of the person who that is actually Denji.
Hmm.
And that door represents something really important that happened, which actually no one knows. And it it is actually being protected by, as we find out a bit later, being protected by somebody.
Really?
Yes.
Okay,
And
just for people listening, not sorry to cut you off. How far along are you? So, like, where in the manga are you? Just for people listening.
well, the manga now is at part 2.
Okay.
So essentially, the first part is like the public safety part, where Denji's working for these people in public safety, and after that, I don't want to give too much about it.
Yeah, but we're
Part
already
part
speculating. Okay.
part 2 is Denji, but in a completely different type of situation. I was
Okay.
kind of shocked by it, but
Wow.
yeah. So that's the big difference thing. And Part two kind of wraps up a lot of stuff. Well, as I see the direction that it's going, it's going to wrap up a lot of stuff that occurs in part one.
Okay. Interesting. All right. So the door does have a significant meaning.
A very
Okay.
significant
I like
meaning.
that. I like that because I felt like I kind of like shared my ideas with other friends. I was they kind of made me feel like I was just looking a little bit too much into it, but I'm like, no, they showed us that for a reason, you know? That has significance. So great. Okay. Um
My However, my first impression of it was that it was somewhat more connected to the beginning,
okay.
but it's something really important which is occur that something that occurred in his life and is being held from
Okay. Interesting. So the door does have meaning and um would you pretty much said that in I'm assuming part 2 would be season 2 in the anime. Would that be correct?
No,
No.
no, no, no.
Okay.
It'll probably I don't know exactly, but it'll probably be so there's one I think there are 3 more arcs
Okay.
or maybe 4
Wow.
more arcs in part 1 till it till it
Okay, so
concludes.
you're way ahead. Got it.
Well, the manga is way ahead.
Got it.
In fact,
Okay.
the funny thing about it is that, my son first told me about Chainsaw Man because he was reading it,
Mhm.
and I just looked at it on, Shonen Jump, and to me, the cover looked kinda corny, so I was there like, "I'm not really interested in it," and then I noticed on Hulu, I said, "Oh," I was telling my son, "Oh, I see it's on Hulu now." And then I said, "Well, maybe I should check it out," without having any
Yeah.
expectations whatsoever. And that first episode drew me in.
Hooked. You were hooked.
Yeah,
Same.
to me, it was amazing. That first episode, to me, could have been a book.
Right? I wanna say, how did I learn about Chainsaw Man? I know around the time, like, I saw the advertisings around maybe, like, November. Or maybe no. I think it came out like October, the anime, right? It was like towards Halloweenish a little bit, I think. So I kind of
Yeah.
see it. I kind of saw the advertising around that time, and I honestly, looking at the artwork, I'm like, okay, what the hell is this? Like, I all I would say is kind of like you when I saw that first episode, not having any expectations, not knowing what this was about. I was completely hooked, and even going further as the story progresses, I'm like, wow, this is a really good show. This is a really, for me as a person who kind of likes symbols and symbolic meanings. I'm like, this show hits a lot of things that are relevant in society, at least like American society. I don't know about other cultures, but there's so many things that it references as far as like demons and basically there's a demon for everything like fear, guns, and basically they thrive on or they're more powerful judging how they're perceived by society, how much they're feared. And I felt like that like again, I'm not reading the manga. I plan to start it soon, but I feel like this show is probably going to hit a lot of like um I don't know, like symbolic issues in society, which I felt like was I don't know if other shows really do that, you know?
Are you a big anime manga fan?
I am. I don't read much manga.
Uh-huh.
I want to, but I do watch a lot of anime, yes.
Okay. Okay. What really struck me about this one, which differs from a lot of other anime that I've seen, is, and I don't know, it could just be the type of anime and manga I absorb, but to me, a lot of things were very, let's say, realistic,
Hmm.
excluding, of course, the whole demon thing and the
Yeah.
devils and everything like that. But it essentially takes place in a modern world similar to what we exist in. All of the countries still exist. Japan exists as it normally is. US is there, Russia is there, China, it exists there. And interactions with the people are more or less the same if you exclude the whole devil thing.
Hmm.
Now, and the reason I say this is the person to person interaction, because a lot of the interactions I see in other anime and manga, they seem more, how could I say, like the typical thing that you would see in a manga
Hmm.
or anime. And I think sometimes it's reflecting on a certain type of view of Japanese society. That's my impression.
Hmm.
And this to me seemed to be more down to earth.
Yeah. I felt like I felt like, at least like why I mentioned like American culture, the whole idea that the gun devil is kind of like this top of all the devils, it's the gun devil. And I feel like, in America we obviously have a gun problem. And I felt like even in the episode, I think it was episode I don't remember the number, maybe 9, I think maybe, but it was from no, it was either from Kyoto or it was kind of like around the episode. It was like gunfire or something like that. And we kind of just see how easily these people have guns, they have access to guns, and how they're able to basically commit evils, or crimes with these guns, within a blink of an eye, they take out the whole daggone squad with a gun. These people who have
Yeah,
access, these people who have devil contracts taken out with bullets instantly. So it's kind of like, that whole idea of, you know, guns are very powerful things. They can, within seconds, they can really shatter and, you know, change people's lives.
yeah.
Um, I want to I want to kind of like go back to the beginning and kind of like talk about Denji's upbringing, I guess. So like what I like about Denji, kind of like similar to other characters in anime, he has like kind of like he has a rough bringing up and things like that. But I feel like, this guy, he really like this at least as far as like the writing goes, they really make it a point to kind of portray the idea that this guy is really like viewed by society and a lot of people as trash. We see him literally being thrown multiple times into a dumpster, people calling him trash, people telling him he has no value. He's selling body parts for money. Um, you know, and yet somehow for some reason this kid is still pushing through. Like a lot of people I'm sure would have they would have just ended their lives or they would have just given up, but this guy, without really having any type of reason that he can voice, to keep pushing forward, he does. And um I kind of want to get your like as somebody again who's kind of like further ahead than everyone else, what do you think about Denji's character? And without giving away too much, do we see him kind of like evolve um into something else because of his upbringing?
Wait, because of his upbringing?
Yeah, so like for example, even like in throughout the story, he's a dog, right? He's constantly
Okay, yeah, yeah. I see what you mean. Okay, sorry, got kind of thrown off there. So you brought up a very good point there, and what I found very interesting, and again, this to me kind of separates it from many other manga and anime I've seen. I mean, it to me looked like these more of French noir films
Mhm.
where it has a very dark feeling. Denji comes from a very crazy situation. And I
Very,
mean, to me, it's one
yeah,
of the darkest that I've ever seen. I mean, the kid is at the funeral talking to a Yakuza guy, and he's here like, you better start selling your body parts, sell yourself on the street, something, but you
yeah.
gotta pay us.
And this
I
is
mean,
all while after
it,
the guy's father just died, and
yeah,
prior
exactly.
to that, his mother died of some unknown illness.
Right. Right. So it started off extremely dark. And the interesting thing, well, I mean, he was actually kind of suicidal at the funeral,
Hmm.
because this is when he meets Pochita. And he kind of gave up on life, but then he thought to help this devil. And this thing, I'm sorry to sidestep a bit, but this was very interesting to me because I don't know if you have an opinion about this, but even where I am right now, I don't really gather the general opinion of people because if devils are running around on earth, I think they would be something to be feared rather than something that you could befriend. There's, I guess you could say, well, there's kind of good devils and there's kind of bad devils, but it's weird that he had this interaction with Pochita and also that he knew devils eat, well, consume blood and that he could give him the blood, his own blood.
I thought that was very interesting. And we don't see it as far as like in season one. We don't see that a lot. The only character we really kind of see that with is like Power. Like she has this affinity for this cat of all things, right? So I'm kind of like, I really don't know what devils are in this anime as of yet. Are they all evil? Are they all innately bad? Is there some type of like, do they have like a arc, as we say, like a switch or something that happens in them? Even like Katana Man, his reason, so to speak, for his vengeance is because I guess Denji killed his grandfather, who he
Yeah.
painted as this nice guy, even though he did bad things, and so like
Hmm.
that's his reasoning for um, pursuing Denji. But prior to that, who was he? It's like actually no, like we see that in the anime they say it's uncommon for what is it like humans to kind of like bond in that way, like body wise with their devils. So
Yes,
is
because
it?
yeah, so Denji is a very interesting situation. He's a hybrid,
Mhm.
and you learn later from Kashibe, the guy who's training him in power. Power is a fiend, and Denji's a hybrid. Denji's immortal,
Got it.
and but Power is pretty almost close, but she could be killed.
Mhm.
So that was something that's interesting with that regard. But going back to what you first asked me about with Denji, so he is rock bottom. He is at the bare essentials. And this kind of tripped me out because I lived in Japan for a short period of time
Oh,
for
I'm so jealous.
internship.
I'm so jealous.
And society, I think, as an average person there is pretty good. And for Fujimoto to come up with a scenario like this, he has to really think outside of the box.
Mhm.
Because I also know poverty. I originate from, well, not such a poor country, but I've seen real poverty. And I mean, I can even imagine Denji's situation after he killed that tomato devil, and after Yakuza takes out, well, you get this amount of money. I think it was like 400,000 yen. It was a good bit of money. But then he said like taking out this finder fee, this, and that. All you have left over is enough money for a slice of bread.
Mhm.
And I mean, a slice of bread to survive for a day, and then he shares it with Pochita. That is rock bottom poverty.
Yeah.
And that's all he cared about. I mean, when he first came into when he met Makima, and she said that, when you could join us, you have 3 square meals. And he said like, I'm good. You know, he, and then his goals kind of changed with that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was just the bare minimum, and he kind of evolved from that. He wanted more and more and more and more. And um, he also, the way I looked at it, and to go back to what you were saying, how people treated him like dirt and like garbage. I think initially he kind of thought of himself like that.
Yeah, I
But
was.
then later on, he has the will to live. He wants to survive. Because initially, like I said, he was kind of suicidal when he met Pochita. He didn't care. And then he started to get more out of life, and he actually wanted to live. You know, that was a theme that came up later on as well. So he certainly did evolve, especially when you look towards towards the end too. And also, there was a big conflict that you saw when Himino died, because he thought to himself, she, of course, she puked in his mouth, or whatever. But
I
they kind of bonded, and he
would
didn't.
hope so after that.
but he didn't really feel anything, and then he was going through, all the people in his life. Well, how would he feel if Aki died? How would he feel if Power died? And at the time, but I think not much time has passed, but he was growing affectionate with all of these people. And even the Katana man says that, didn't you feel anything by killing these zombies? And he's like, nah. And then he said, like, you are not like me, because he's also a hybrid, but he says that he has a heart. And then, prior to that, Denji was thinking, does he really not have a heart? Because, Pochita kind of took over his internal organs, including his heart. So he's saying, does he even have a heart? And I think that is something that grows with him as the story goes on.
That's actually, you bring up a good point. That's something that I liked about Denji too. For me, I kind of saw his humility, and I saw that in the beginning when he's introduced to us as this character who is, as you said, who has hit rock bottom. People view him as rock bottom. He is, quote unquote trash, and people throw him in the trash, and he has to sell body parts for basically nickels and dimes. And I felt like to see this guy, um, uh, basically later on, we see him when he's killing demons and stuff. He, instead of using his chainsaws, he basically like he considers it kind of like a mercy to like hit them like with I
That
forgot.
act.
Yeah. So like to even have that kind of like mercy, to me, that's kind of like a person who has a heart or who has some type of good nature in them. Because like as we said, like he has no reason to be nice. People are not nice to him. Society has never been nice to him. So why be nice to why be nice to anyone else? And the fact that he does that, and the fact that he kind of I want to say he has this like childish innocence, even talking about his reason for living. Like it may seem kind of like superficial, but like he wants to squeeze boobs, he wants to kiss a girl, he wants to do all these, childish kind of like preteen things. And like to me, there's kind of like an innocence in that. He really has not yet seen the world. He has not really had a life, so to speak, to experience. He's always kind of been after the death of his parents, he's kind of been at the beck and call, or kind of like in debt to someone or something at all times. And that's something I'm interested to see
That's true.
either in season 2 or like reading the manga. I want to see, is that something that is consistent? Is he this person that's always indebted to someone, or does he at some point get his freedom? Because I feel like as I'm watching the anime, this kid has never had freedom. His mother died of an illness, his father committed suicide, and even in that scene, he coughs up blood before he kind of like merges with
Yes.
he's coughing up blood. So you're sick. Are you dying? And then immediately after merging with Pochita and gaining his power, he's a dog. So he goes from like this cycle of gaining power to then getting his power taken away. It's kind of like, he's a slave to some extent. And I'm interested to see how his character develops, and even just moving forward a little bit. I You might know more about this, but I feel like what are they called? The Devil Hunters. What's their squad called? Um,
Public safety.
Public Safety. I feel like
Uh,
there's some type of hidden. I don't trust Public Safety too yet to protect the public. I feel like there's something going on.
oh,
And
most definitely.
yeah, and I feel like we kind of get a sense of that towards the end of the season after Gunfire and From Kyoto. There was a scene, I'm not sure if it was on purpose, but it wasn't answered for me in season 1. The scene when Makima is on the train and they're basically assassinated. We saw her get shot. We saw her body in that chair, and yet it that's not apparently what happened. So we see her at the end of the season. She has the power. We don't know her devil yet, but she has the power to basically kill people within an instant. She has to make sacrifices. She has to take souls to do it, but she's able to kill people and basically, take them off the board. But it was never answered what happened on that train. Did she really get shot? Is it just a hallucination that the people saw? What else can she do?
Well, no, she most definitely got shot.
Okay, okay, that says a lot.
Her
That's,
brains were blown out.
that says a lot. Okay, got
Yeah.
it, got it. Okay.
Yeah, so that actually really scared me because and again, like what you were saying with the whole public safety thing, because I'm just like, okay, this is a good thing. The public safety is good around. They're cleaning up the devils. They're killing them devils and everything like that. At first, it was kind of weird to me. So like, well, why do they want to work with a hybrid if their goal is to take out the devils? Are they just, as we were saying, like maybe they're just controlling the bad ones, but devils are okay. And as long as they're control. Like you were saying, as you brought up there,
Mhm.
with Denji literally being a dog, was well, actually really like a slave. That was something really weird. From is that I think it's either the end of the first episode or the beginning of the second episode. Because Makima, when you first meet her, she's somebody that's a breath of fresh air, a really nice
Yeah,
person.
did not see
And
that
then it
coming.
completely flips. She's here like
And she's
She
manipulative. Yeah.
yeah, well, not just manipulative, she's scary. She said, like, "You gotta do what we say." Well, basically, she says, "Either you come with us or we kill you as a devil."
Basically.
Yeah, and the whole time, the threat of his life was always the thing. Even when he would join with Aki, even when they were later on with Kashiba, it's basically if they rebel, if they go off script in any way, kill them. You
Basically.
know, so they were really literally like slaves, and every mission that they had, that was the thing. If you don't do what you're told to do, you're gonna die. And that was, as you were saying, that is a common theme throughout the whole thing. And it's a really interesting point because if his whole life was like that, and then he finally becomes free, what would he do?
Yes,
You
exactly.
know,
What would you do?
how would
Like
you
like they say,
behave?
with great power comes great responsibility, right? Like what would you do if you
You're
are
right.
if you have this chainsaw devil who also we learn you know um is basically feared or kind of like revered by other devils. Like there's some significance to the chainsaw devil. As cute as he was, he has recognition in this devil community, right? So
Yeah.
much that people are pursuing him and want to kind of like extract him from Dingy. So I feel like um my mind can only speculate as to like where that goes. But if him and Pochita were free and still united, what would that mean, you know? And I kind of want to um hold on one second. Let me look at my notes. That was one of my questions is can a devil be free, right? So we kind of like see I think it was like one of the final episodes in season 1 where they basically pursue Katana Man and I don't know her name, but the girl with the snake. They pursue her, and we kind of see oh my gosh, Aki. We see Aki basically go to like this. I guess it's like they keep them in a prison in a basement somewhere or like in another facility, but they have devils basically behind bars, right? And they're just
Oh,
uh,
when he goes to meet with the future devil,
yes. So like it kind of seems like the idea is to kill devils or to somehow uh
contained him,
contain them, right?
and
Um, so that again, like, can devils be free? Is that it seems like that's not a thing. Like, is there is no world or there's no concept in the society where a devil is just free. They're either pursued or they're kind of like incriminated and kind of like contained, like you said.
right. Well, see, that's a good point. Well, the question is, are there good devils and bad
Yes,
devils? Are
nice.
they,
Actually,
yeah, how are they viewed? And you see more of that later on.
okay,
Now, one thing I would consider this a plot hole, to be very honest with you.
okay,
When I'm thinking about this, devils have their power based on the fear from humanity. There is a tomato devil.
yes,
I
that would.
mean,
Thank you. Yes, yes. Okay, I want to
Denji
talk about that too.
overpowers him rather easily, and I would have to say Denji's pretty athletic for being a normal human being, but still he takes out the tomato devil pretty easily. Then I'm thinking to myself, if you have a tomato devil, that means literally every
There's a
single
devil for
food has a
everything.
devil.
There's a devil for
Yeah.
everything. Yes, anything that can be feared, there's a devil.
Right. But I mean, if there's a level of fear for tomatoes, there has to be a level of fear for pretty much anything.
Yes, and that's kinda like my point that I was making with, this kind of anime kind of like touching on, like, culture and, like, society. A lot of people have phobias, as a lot of people who don't who've never suffered from, like, anxiety and panic disorders, they can't really understand the phobias some people have, but people
Mhm.
have phobias for everything. There are people who are afraid of falling, there are people who are afraid of, the sky caving in, you know? So it's kinda like I thought that was an interesting concept to introduce in this anime, this story, if you will, that there are devils basically for anything that can be feared. And so like we saw there was an eternity devil. Like it just makes my mind wander like where can this go? What type of devils can we see? And what does, assuming what their power is, what does that look like in this story, you know? Because even like we saw the Eternity Devil, I didn't know how he's gonna get out of that one.
And
You
the
know, he's like,
Eternity Devil knew him.
yes, yes.
Yeah, so this is a really interesting point there. And I guess later on you find out more about it.
Are you kind of like are you suggesting anything? Or are you trying to like be subtle?
I'm trying to be subtle.
Okay, okay, got it.
And also, one thing that was really interested with his battle with the Eternity Devil is that in order to give him more endurance, he had to consume the Eternity Devil's flesh.
mm. I thought that was very interesting too, and kind of like because I think the idea is that all devils in some way after consuming blood they can like rejuvenate and kind of like keep
Hmm.
going, right? So I felt like um as of right now, all we know is that Denji can produce chainsaws seemingly from various points of his body.
Yeah.
So I was like, if you have this guy who's like we said is extremely athletic and he has chainsaws equipped and all he needs to do is consume blood to keep going. He doesn't need sleep, he doesn't need food apparently. That's not a guy I wanna fuck with, you know? That's a guy, you know, who I would not quote unquote wanted to get into a gunfight with, you know? And um, I know you probably know this already, but I'm like, what? Again, I'm kind of just like wondering who is this Chainsaw Devil and why is he so kind of like I don't even know if it's revered or feared at this point. But people want to get to him, and I'm like, okay, why? Because all we saw was Pochita, and he might have another form for all I know. Because I'm like, this cute little thing. That's what y'all want? Y'all want that cute little thing for what?
You brought up a really good point, and I'm going back to what I was saying with the devils and being feared. When we meet Pochita, he's dying,
Yeah,
right? So something obviously happened to him, but he's nursed back to health through Denji. But he still doesn't look too scary, right? So he is essentially the Chainsaw Devil. That little
that
thing.
little
He's not
thing.
really that tough. But the Tomato Devil to me looks
Look
much more
tougher. Yeah.
powerful. And then you look at the Zombie Devil, Eternity Devil. Why are they after Pochita? Because Pochita's pretty weak.
Oh my gosh, I'm like,
So to me this is a plot hole. But
yeah.
you'll see later on why it's not really.
See, now I feel like I need to read the manga today. Like,
It's
okay,
really interesting, and also the Chainsaw Man's true power. That is
yes.
really interesting, and you'll see why he's really feared and
Let's.
revered, I should say,
So
and
what?
why everybody wants him. It's a good point, but then you have to say, well, it's still a mystery who the Chainsaw Devil. Even further on, you don't know truly who he is, right? Because as you're saying, there's different devils and they could actually have different attributes depending on what they consume. Because why the Bat Devil, right,
Mhm.
acts very different than the Eternity Devil? Why do they have those specific powers? It's not really associated with their fit. Well, the Bat Devil is, but the Eternity Devil, it's not really. I mean, what kind of powers would an Eternity Devil have?
Or even
And
so, like you
then
said, like the tomato devil. Like, what power does a tomato have?
I would assume that a Tomato Devil could just reproduce a lot of
Yeah,
tomatoes and
right.
throw it at you and
Right,
hit you.
fried tomatoes, maybe,
Yeah.
right? Like, oh, I'll get you sick. Oh,
Exactly. So, but they have different attributes depending on whatever they consume, and it it gets kind of complicated. So you don't know because like the Chainsaw Man's true power, and then why chainsaws? I'll tell you this right now. One of the reasons why the Chainsaw Man was supposed to be the most feared person, the author Fujimoto, he was quite fond of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That
mm,
that show, the movie. He was actually influenced by a lot of American shows, and you
okay,
really see it in the intro. But it plays out through many parts of it. So that's really why Chainsaw Man. It's really the author's preference.
got it.
But I'm sure there's going to be more to this later on because he's quite intelligent in the way he put makes the symbolism. I mean, if you read the manga, there's tons of little things that you gloss over, and it's actually really important. So, like, I mean, every little detail in there they come back to. It's not like so, like for instance, when they showed those two little kids having a snowball battle. I just thought, why are they bringing this up? You know, and they're bringing it up for the Gun Devil, but it has even greater significance for that because you know one of those boys is Aki.
Oh, wow. Okay, I gotta go rewatch that then. Okay.
Yeah, so and I'm here like because that's why Aki joined because his
Oh,
whole
you're talking about with his brother. Got it. Okay.
yeah his whole is not just but his whole entire family was killed
Yeah,
by the Gun Devil. In
yeah.
fact, many of them why they joined was because of that. I kind of don't understand the Gun Devil's power because why is speed such a big factor?
Oh, okay. So see now, this is why I was confused. Because when I saw that scene, I honestly thought it was like a wind devil. I thought a tornado just came through and just took the house down. Okay, so it was
No,
a
that's the Gun Devil.
that was the
So,
gun devil.
like, when the Gun Devil appeared, he jumped from place to place. Like, he was in Russia, he was in China, he was in the US, and he killed like millions of people in like a second or 30 seconds. He was
Ah,
going extremely fast and killing tons of people.
so I guess maybe like a speeding bullet. I guess maybe.
He's moving faster than the speed of light.
Got it. Got it.
so, so I'm a physicist, by the
Ah,
way.
oh, nice.
so,
That,
so, and actually, people have calculated it. So they hear like he's going from this point to this point. He only spends this amount of time there, and he's moving faster than the speed of light. So I didn't understand why they had speed as part of it. It could just be with the amount of violence going on in those countries, but it's not proportional because you know who has more gun deaths than us, you know. So I think the worst was like in India or somewhere. It was random. Well, anyway, I didn't see. I understand the gun devil's power, but I would assume there's other devils more powerful than him that they would be more worried about
yeah. Okay.
because there's a devil for everything, right?
Exactly. I'm thinking right now.
So
I'm thinking nuclear, nuclear bomb devil. Like you know.
exactly. Then there's a bomb devil. There's a nuclear bomb devil. There could be even be like a Nazi devil or war devils. You know, there are many different types of devils. So I would assume that a war devil would be much more powerful and much more feared than, say, a gun devil, right?
That I want to kind of like talk about how we mentioned before, like public safety, right?
Hmm.
There's obviously some type of, um, I guess we could say, hidden agenda with public safety. I'm not really sure, and this is the part that's confusing to me as a watcher. It's like I'm not really sure where the hidden agenda is coming from because I feel like Makiba has a hidden agenda. I feel like the higher ups have a hidden agenda, and it's just all together when you put them all together in in something and call it public safety. I'm like, I don't know who to trust. I don't know what's going on here, and we even
That's a
see
very good point.
like at the end, I think it was maybe the final episode, we see Makima kind of like sitting down with the was it are they called the Yakuza? Is that who it was?
Oh yeah, when yes, yeah.
Yeah.
When she said when she had the bag and she
Yes.
said this is the ice.
I'm like, who is this bitch? Like
Makima,
and this is
Makima is like one of the
and
scariest
this is
people I've ever seen.
and that's what I'm talking about. Like from who I thought she was at the beginning versus who I think she is now. Don't like I kind of like don't get me wrong. She's one of my favorite characters because she's kind of like she's that bitch, but also
Mhm.
she's kind of like I'm afraid of her because she's that bitch. So it's just kind of like I don't know.
You
Is
should
she
be.
is she on my side or is she not? That's the part that I'm confused about, and that's why I don't know whether or not like
Well, you said a very important part, and it comes up much later. I think it was even the last episode. Was it? I'm not sure if it was the last episode in season one. She's meeting with Kashiba, And Kashiba is kind of skeptical about her. And he says that you better be fighting for the side of humanity.
Yes, I remember that. Yes, and I was like,
And then he says, you're a liar. You know, when she gives her response, he says, you're a liar. So yeah, you brought up a really good point. And as I was saying in the very beginning, you hear like, oh, public safety, they're keeping everybody safe. And then
supposedly, allegedly,
you immediately see Makima has a whole other agenda.
a
And the
whole other
question is she under public safety or this is her own thing? And
exactly.
I'm thinking there has to be somebody even higher up because she's like a director or whatever. I'm thinking, who's the CEO? The CEO's got to be like got some crazy powers because she's
Yeah,
under them.
because we see kind of like I don't know if it's something that's like kind of like written into the contract, but we kind of see like the higher you go, or I would imagine so. The higher you go in public safety is like your devil is more legit. Your devil's more, like
Well, technically, only Division 4 is supposed to have devil content.
really.
So this is also something that caught me off guard. So Denji and
So
his
they're
people
like a
there,
special team basically.
yeah, that's a special unit, and it was a special task force using devils. So technically, Makima doesn't have a contract, which is also a really scary thing because she's obviously not human.
Clearly, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So I thought she
she's
had a
on
contract.
something.
Okay,
And
so that
then
is
the question is, who knows? Because when she met with the public safety people, when they said that she's blood all over and everything like that, she said like, I'm all right, nothing happened to me. But we
that was
clearly saw she got her brains blown out. So that means she's keeping it from them.
mhm.
It could be because they're really low. Maybe the higher up people know. I don't know. I'll tell you this right now. Even where I'm at, I don't really understand public safety.
Okay.
I don't know who's controlling it, what's going on. It's it's a mystery. I mean, I'm hoping by the end of part 2 you know more. But yeah, you don't. Are they good or bad? You don't know. I mean, obviously they're trying to do some good things because they're trying to get the gun devil and contain and capture many of these devils. I do have to say, as a side note, how did the future devil get caught? He could see the
Alright.
future.
Good point. Good
I'm here like,
point.
who brought the future devil?
Unless it's part of his agenda or his, part of his.
Exactly, exactly.
And even like he said, he kind of like alluded to this idea that he gets some type of pleasure out of seeing people's futures or their deaths. So like maybe he just wants to sit there and like just I mean, but he could do that freely more so than he could in a cell. So that wouldn't make
Well,
sense.
not necessarily. Maybe he knows there's more interested people that are going to
True,
who
true.
work for public safety. I
Versus
don't know.
somebody
Well, he
versus
knows the
somebody who's gonna
future.
die in a bed, like oh you're about to get your head sliced off, like oh you're about to get betrayed by your best friend, your superior, like very
Yeah.
interesting.
And I mean, he's still, even in part 2, he plays a major role. Well, not a major role. He's still in it. And it's important because people want to see the future.
Mhm.
So I thought that was really weird that the future devil got caught. I rewatched it a third time when, I was going to do this podcast with you. So I thought that was really interesting.
I kind of want to like if anybody's watching and they don't want to get a spoiler, this is the part where you exit. I want to ask: is Jimenos actually dead? Is she really dead? Is she gone?
Yes, I would say.
Oh, dang. Okay.
And
Okay.
she was actually one of my favorite characters, too.
Yeah. Okay, so can you answer this? Something that confused me about her death was I thought in that scene we basically saw her I guess as a result of her union or her contract with the devil, basically the more the devil dies, she dies as well, it seems, right? So we saw that the snake had basically swallowed.
Well,
Okay, okay.
she's contracted to give the devil to get more of the devil's power. I'm sorry, as a side note, I had to say this, but it's kind of like in Black Clover
Okay.
with, I don't know if you watched that.
I fell off a little bit, but I watched enough of it.
Okay, it's kind of like with Asta. The more he gives the devil, the more power he gets.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's just like her. The more, like, she gave the devil her eye, and that's why she could use the hand and everything like that. And she just kept giving it more. She
Got
gave the arm and kept giving more and more and more in order to get to release the full power of that devil.
got it. Okay. So then, my other question would be: we saw after that. I honestly, let me see if I can just look up her name because I feel like this is disrespectful. Hold on. What's her name?
You talk about Kobeni?
Is she the girl with the snake?
Oh no, no. Actually, I forgot
Oh,
her
is it
name.
Sawatari? Right.
Saratara. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
That's it.
so we see that basically she gains control of the ghost when she's facing Aki. How does that happen? Like, how does is that like because she already has
Because
snakes?
her devil consumed it,
Okay,
and
so
that's how she's able to control it. So that's what I was saying. When a devil consumes another devil, they have some control or even absorb some of the power of that other devil.
interesting. Okay,
So by that, Snake Devil um, eating the other one, she was able to control that devil.
okay, very interesting.
Well, I should say so she thought, because
Well, yeah,
Tenma was
yeah,
still kind of
yeah.
inside.
She was still team public safety, or at least
Yeah, which
like
is also kind of
team Aki
weird.
and
That
team.
that is actually a bit of a plot hole too, because it's not really supposed to be a mutual thing, but that's apparently what happened.
Yeah, that see, and that goes back to the whole idea of these devils basically forming. I guess we could say like human attachments. I guess right, or like having some type of like human emotion with their
Yes,
contractors or whatever you want to call them. Like kind of like how we see with like Denji and Pochita. Like it
yes,
seems like Kimeno and you know the ghost had some type of um I don't want to say it was like, oh my god, I love you, oh my god, we're best friends, but it's like this kind of like this, oh my
a
god, what's
mutual respect.
mutual respect, or more like a
Yes,
uh I can't find the word for it right now, but it's like more of an intimacy a little bit, kind
yes,
of
yes.
like
They do have some kind of a bond, and you will
yes, there you
see
go,
it
a bond.
later on.
Yeah. Okay.
You will see it later on how that really works, because they live like a hybrid. They live essentially together, kind of like a parasitic relationship, but they need each other, but there's still a quite a bond with them. That's true. Yeah.
Very interesting. Okay, so we learned some new things today. I want to say probably the most eye opening for me was you said that Aki, I mean not Aki, Makima does not have a devil contract. She does not have a devil contract.
Well, I don't know if I should say give you a definitive answer for that to spoil. So
Okay, okay,
if
okay,
you
okay,
don't
okay.
want
Wait,
me
wait,
to
wait, 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 wait.
spoil, if you want me to spoil it,
Wait.
I could tell you.
Okay, hmm, let me rephrase this. Okay, and it still might be a spoiler, but in season one, when we see Aki use a devil's power and kind of like just kill people with a few hand gestures, was that a result of a devil contract?
Yes, that's with the cursed devil,
Thank you. Okay. Are her
and that
eyes
takes part of his life,
of her life? Oh, the
of his life.
oh wow. So that takes part of the
Oh, wait, 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 wait. Time out, time out. I think I miss. I didn't hear that correctly.
okay.
So you're saying you meant Makima, because I think you said Aki at some point in time.
Yeah,
So the
I
thing
messed
that
that
she
up.
was
Yeah.
doing to kill all of those people, how
Yeah.
she got the name of the Yakuza, and like she has somebody from death row basically, and
Yeah.
has them say the name, and then she could control them.
Yeah. So was that a result of a devil contract?
No,
Are her eyes a result of a devil contract?
Now, she's a very special person, and you're gonna see how special later in part one, and then all of part two is about her kind of, or people who are very similar to her.
Hmm.
What they did in the anime truly showed the nature of Maki. And
Versus the manga.
yeah, yeah, you see that she's a twisted person, but when you see the anime, you hear like first first of all, I mean, a lot of people are attracted to her. She's a woman of confidence and everything like that. You know, she's got a cute face and everything. She's attracts you, but then she's scary. You know, you can see she's a really twisted individual. She like will tell you, I'm gonna. She's like a psychopath. She would say
And
like, I would chop you up into little pieces with a smirk on her face. You know, like
and
when she met with the yakuza, she said like, "Yo, these are the eyeballs of family and all your close loved ones." She looked like she's just
having
it,
tea.
yeah, it means nothing to her.
She's talking about the weather.
You'll see later on why she behaves like that, but to us, she's a weird person.
I felt like when I said earlier like she was manipulative,
Yeah,
that's what I saw when I feel like there's a point where I feel like she already knew in the beginning, she could sense like Denji, he had some type of feeling for her. It's pretty easy. Like he kind of like puts his feelings out there, right? I feel like when um there was an episode or like a scene where she basically she gets very intimate with him and basically says there's a difference between kind of like sexual feelings versus when you have sexual feelings for someone you're intimate with, someone you really
right.
um, you know admire. And she basically puts like his finger in her mouth and everything. And do I think that she has something for Denji? No. But I think she knows what she's doing, and that's to me the scariest thing to do. Like she can manipulate what she knows matters to you and what she knows is something of value to you, and she could take that and kind of like use it to her own discretion or her own agenda. I feel like that is something that makes anyone a dangerous person. you know she knows that Denji, he's very inexperienced, he's very easy to kind of like persuade, and she's basically you like she even though she's true to it in the very beginning, she basically said it like, "Oh, you're gonna work for me or you're gonna get killed." She's very blunt with what she expects and what she wants from you as far as that dynamic. But to kind of like it's kind of like with anyone in a relationship, I feel like there's sometimes always one person who's kind of like more um I guess like into it or kind of like more im- uh
Hmm.
you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
She knows how Denji is, and like the fact that she's she's basically using that to her advantage to basically get him to just keep doing the work. I feel like that's a scary person. Like it. That's just with Denji. So like, how can she and would she manipulate someone else? We already saw she,
well,
she takes eyeballs and put them in a
you
box.
know that she is right. So that's actually when I first saw her, I knew she had some kind of a power,
Mm.
and it was controlling. Because look at Aki. Aki also loves her, but he
Yes,
doesn't
good
know why.
point. Good
He
point.
doesn't look like he doesn't necessarily behave like
He's Google Gaga. He's
yeah,
like
exactly. Like Denji is completely head over heels in love with her.
thinks she's just
And
the highest of the high. She's the best person on the planet.
right, but Aki doesn't necessarily, and he says like, that's one of the reasons he beat him up and well, wanted to beat him up in the beginning was because he said like she's too good for you. She's my girl, you know. So I assume that she has some manipulative control. I don't know if it was a magical thing or that just using her feminine wiles to attract these guys. But to me, it was much more of a magical thing because one, her crazy looking eyes, and the way that everyone is kind of spellbound. And to tell you
I
the
think
truth,
so too. Yeah.
she has control over it's not just the males, because at first I was thinking
Ooh,
she has some special
okay.
things for males, but it's also look power is everybody is when like you saw when she was in the bar, everybody's mood switched when she came in. It's
Mm.
like, oh, it's boss lady, straighten up, everybody's and it's not just because she's the boss lady. So it seemed like she had some power over everybody.
I
And
think
it's
so.
not your typical I'm the boss, I'm trying to follow orders.
I think so too, because like if we just kind of like um, stereotype everyone or kind of like generalize them a little bit, when we talk about kind of like sexualization, power really has like the body that quote unquote most men like view as desirable, right? She's got well, even though we learned that that's fake, but she has the big boobs, she's got the
Yeah.
long hair, she's got the, she's skinny and everything. So like you would think that upon meeting, without even her opening her mouth, and then you say, "Oh shit, never mind." Without that, you would think that power has more like, she'd be able to get men to kind of like be attracted to her, but
Yeah.
versus Makima, no. Like Makima has this thing. She's in a suit, like we said. She's covered up. You don't really
Mhm.
see much of her figure, really, and yet she has this sway. This kind of like, she has this sway over people, and even like her personality. She's very monotone. She doesn't give you
Mhm.
much, but yet
Right.
somehow people are drawn to her. People are, like Aki. Like they are willing to do her bidding, and really like. Um, of course, us just watching is just a season, whatever. And like if we assume that these people are real, Aki's been working with her for some time. They formed some type of relationship. But just looking at it from the outside, she has, like we said, she has no real personality that we can really see and digest. What is it about her that you are all drawn to? She's not fun. She's not, like what is it about her? She has no real quirkiness. She has no real, she's seemingly at all times the boss lady.
Yeah.
So it's just like there has to be some type of, like you said, like magical affinity to her. And like we really do see it with her eyes. Like she is different from other people just on that alone. There is something to her. But like there is, like you said, this she has this ability to kind of like attract people. And I do feel like it is supernatural.
Yeah. And I think it may even be with her higher ups. She kind of behaves the same with them. When she's speaking to them, they were asking her about her quote unquote dogs. And they were saying don't get attached to the dogs and they just have to do what we want them to do or we get rid of them.
Mhm.
And she's as I understand and everything, but it's more like I'm gonna do what I want to do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's to me what came out of that. That's what I felt.
I feel like the what I perceive, like, from her character and just from watching the anime and not reading anything, I also got that, and I do feel like it's kind of like judging just by that conversation alone, I'm like, "Okay, so they're not the real boss, she's the real boss, right? Got it." Like, basically, she does what she wants to do, or if she doesn't, like, there's really no fallback, there's really no, consequence, really. Like, she's really, like, in a league of her own. Like,
Hmm.
I can't imagine other teams with, whatever her position is in this team, whatever it's called. I can't imagine that they all behave that way and they talk that way to you guys. I can't imagine
Right,
that. So I feel like
right,
that,
right.
again, like, there is something about her that sets her apart, really, from everyone else, and, like, I feel like that's also something that she uses to her advantage too. Like, she kind of like we said, we called her a boss. She exudes boss, like
Hmm.
it's something about her that is so I don't know, like it kind of goes back to like this whole hidden agenda. There's something about her that is just not um it's just not obvious, and it's just so
It is definitely something off about her, even
yes.
in that world that they're in.
Yes, exactly.
Well, like you were asking me earlier, I mean, she got shot, and like when I was saying, like, because I was watching this thing, and I'm here like, oh man, Denji's not gonna be able to hook up with her.
That's what I thought. Yo, that was
She
the
got
worst.
killed.
That was the most like that was to me, that was up there with Game of Thrones. I was like, yo,
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
took out all the people I liked in the first season in one episode, right? And like that's actually kind of like the sad part too. Is like fortunately for her, she did not die, but everyone else that episode they were dead. They dead. You know, so it's kind of like again, it's something that sets her apart from everyone else, even if it's just like is unfortunately like a power thing. Like realistically, like okay, so it doesn't seem like she can die, or if she can, it's really hard to kill her. You know,
Hmm.
whereas like I said before, these people who have double contracts, a bullet takes them out.
Right.
As great as that power is to have a ghost that you can't see and you can't touch, you still get shot with a bullet, you gone. You know,
Right.
with her, because I think you said before, like she did get shot, right?
Yeah.
It was an illusion. She got shot, and she came back from it. That alone, I don't know what power you got, but that's the one that's the one I want. Like forget the ghost. I don't want to die. Like so. Again,
Well,
yeah, like
just one final thing, as you mentioned, the devil contract and everything, and
you have to
this is
give something
something
up,
that
right?
everybody is wondering, and this is Kobani, right? So you really get to know Kobani in the that little arc with the Eternity Devil. She's terrified, and her
Yeah,
story to me was funny because apparently, like her older brother is smart, so he goes to college, and they told her,
yeah, that
"Look,
was messed up.
either you join public safety or
Or
you
we're gonna
go work in a
prostitute you.
brothel. One of the
I
two."
was like, yo, what an option. Like, hey, honestly,
And
honestly, I would have chose the latter. Like, let me go. Like, I can handle that. I gotta be emotionally tough, but versus you in a maze that you can't escape, and that to me, she lost her mind. I would too. I would have quit.
at first I was here like, why is she even a character? What is she doing? And then
But there's more
when
to her
they
too.
had when they bisected Denji and they were carrying him away,
Yes,
she's taking out who was
yes,
her contract devil?
yes.
She's all of a sudden like
She
Flojo.
is a very interesting character as well. She is a very interesting character.
So that is a mystery. No one knows.
You
So
get more of
even
that,
now,
like,
and I
as
don't know if her character's gonna come back or whatever. She is. I mean, what's up with her? There's something, I don't know, something with her. I don't know if they're gonna continue with it. I mean, normally Fujimoto doesn't make little weird errors. I mean, it could be that I don't that he wanted to keep it as a secret, or I don't know. But I mean, what's her deal? That to me is one of the thing that has me the most curious.
is that something like that portrayal of her character, is that something that's consistent in the manga?
Yes, but like I said, I think you get a lot more of it when you see the anime because she's so shook. She's terrified. She's ready to start killing the public safety people. She said, like, I can't take it.
But
She was
even
trying
like
to drink
her
toilet water.
even like that switch she has, that switch, and then all of a sudden these acrobatic abilities, like that's something that's consistent to her in the manga as well?
Well, as far as I remember, that was the only time that she really did that. She may have done some stuff later on in the manga, and she plays a very important role towards the end of part one, a really weird role. But um, like, I think that one scene, that was her big moment. And they
Mm.
don't really address it later, unless I missed it in the manga. But no one really knows who she contracts to. Does she have a contract? Is she a hybrid? Where did this come from? And then she says it's a secret. That's what got me. Because the only person who would know would be Makima, right?
Mm.
Maybe Aki knew. I don't know. But what is it? I mean, what devil power is going to make her like Flojo?
Yeah.
It doesn't. I don't know. And
I mean, she
also,
was
I
to
was here
me,
like, well, why didn't she kill him? She could have
yeah.
obviously killed both of them. So that
I mean,
was also weird.
she was like even like dodging the snake, right? Like she was.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a
Because
Shoot.
I was here like, oh man, that snake is pretty bad. They don't have an
Yeah.
answer for that snake. But I mean, she just ran up
She
on
did
him,
it.
and
She did
she
it
could
was
have
light
took
work.
out the girl. She could have took out the girl and
And
contaminated.
didn't she at even one point she had kinda like, deflected a bullet with her sword, didn't she do that? Like,
Could
or am I
be.
making that up? I might be making that up.
No, and no, either she dodged it or deflected it or something.
Yeah,
That's right. Because I mean, like they couldn't even shoot her. They couldn't take her out. She's like a one man army.
yeah.
So what's her power or her contract or whatever she has? Because there's some people who believe that she plays a bigger role that we're going to see in part two, and
Mhm.
I'm curious, and that could be because so far she hasn't come up in part two, but she was at the end of part one.
Okay, so she hasn't come up yet in part 2. Got
Yeah,
it. Interesting.
at least
But
that.
like you said, going back to the intro with the door,
Mm-hmm.
you said he doesn't he doesn't, like, make little mistakes like that, so, like, if she has a bigger role to play, it seems like she will make a return. And then
Yeah,
maybe there's reason why you haven't seen her yet. And then, very
yeah.
interesting.
Some people think that she's going to be like one of the main characters
Really
later on.
interesting.
And I mean, I would think that'd be really interesting if they do that. Because as I'm saying, with this public safety thing, I have no idea what their deal is. Because to me, there has to be people who are higher than Makima in it, and that are running everything. And I think they got to be really powerful, whoever it is. Because I mean, she would be like equivalent of a director or something like that, unless that was just how the setup was supposed to be. I don't know. To me, when I saw what Makima does and how she is, like how she survived that thing, I'm here like, well, who's on top of her?
Yeah, exactly. Well, like, where do you go from there? You know, as
Because
far
they're
as powers
concerning
go.
Dick and like how she took out. She looked like she could have took out everybody. She
Period.
just crushed them from afar.
And that was the thing that got me too, is because me still thinking that she has a devil contract. My thought was, so not only can she kill people, not only is she able to avoid death, but it seems like if you're taking other people and basically exchanging their souls. Like you kill this person here and it kills that person there. It doesn't seem like she's giving up anything to use that power of herself. She's
Right.
whereas every Minnow's giving up her eye, her body. Everyone has to give something up. Whereas she's like, no, just give me that one and give me that one, and it will squash it. Like, so it's just kind of like again, clearly, clearly, she is separate from
Yeah,
other
she's
people.
definitely on another level. And even when you find out later what's going on, you're still kind of curious to know why does she have all of these powers? And like what would give you the power to you say somebody's name and then you could control them. But why isn't it like you say their name and you could control them or something? I don't
Exactly.
know. I thought that was really weird. I understand you have to give a life for a life, but first of all, why do you have that power? That's what
And
I didn't
then
understand.
I want to know, was the blindfold part of it? Is like, why that? Why did it have to be blindfolded? What is going on here? Like, what is this?
Yeah, yeah, that's really
And
crazy.
and
But also, she did not do it to the people who the hybrid and the other
yeah,
contracted devil person, which to me would have been the most obvious.
and
Kill
that's
those
what
two
I
people.
thought. I was like, well, maybe she didn't get to them on time, but no, she had the exact amount of people, and that's what she chose to eliminate. And then I was like, it could just be like, I'm assuming most crime is committed by men, but I was like, why only the men? Why the only male inmates? But that could be like I
That
said,
is actually a good point.
like what is this to this ritual? What
I
is
don't think that has anything to do with it, but
yeah?
that is it's a good point.
I wanted to like um my other kind of like idea was we see for some reason in the first season the I guess we could say that the Yakuza have some type of there's a correlation between the Yakuza and the Gun Devil. And I thought that was very interesting to kind of like see this arrangement or like this business structure, this kind of like business relationship between devils and like people. Um and like
That to me was just really weird. It didn't
yeah,
make sense. Why does the gun devil need money?
that and I feel like that's to me, that's what I'm like this anime is gonna touch on so many different topics. Like there has it's gonna be like I feel like there has to be a profound aha reason to and it's all gonna make sense. Cause I'm just like, why like you said, like it's like why does the devil need
I
money? But
I'll tell you this right now. Later on, you'll see that that didn't really make sense.
oh, okay.
Unless I really missed something in the manga, but what the main thing is, it's kind of like an anomaly in the story. It didn't really make sense. I think there were probably other actors, some intermediaries, because it didn't really make sense. Not to me, anyhow. I didn't really understand
Listen, if it didn't make sense to the physicist, it's not gonna make sense to
it. Yeah, to me, in any anime that I've ever seen, there's always some kind of plot hole. And I think it's something when you're a writer, you're writing something and you think it may be interesting, and then you decide to go in another direction. I think that's more or less what it was. Because when I was watching this, I'm expecting the Gun Devil to be like some kingpin.
Yeah.
That's the impression that I got.
That's what they're giving us, yeah.
But that's not going to be the Gun Devil.
Oh gosh.
And also, it doesn't really fit, right? Because a kingpin is something that humans see, but that doesn't make sense to devils because their devils are on another level. They don't care about that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
right? Because the only thing they care about is power, and their power comes from fear.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I mean, as long as people are selling guns, he's in business. So why does he need money? And that just didn't make sense to me.
Um, last question, is kinda like another game of if you don't want any spoilers, don't listen. I wanted to ask, and you could just kinda like say yes or no. The other question that I had, and to be honest, I probably need to refresh my memory with the last episode. But before going into that episode, my question was like, well, if there's demons and there's devils or whatever, are there angels? He kind of like give me like a yes or no.
Well, you know that one of the devils is Angel.
That's what I'm saying. I don't. I
So
remember seeing him, but I couldn't really remember. Like, is he really a devil though? Like, I couldn't remember. Like, is he?
that is also something that is unclear to me.
Okay.
So when you're near him, he steals your life energy.
Hmm.
Um, but it's really weird because he doesn't play much of a big role. And as you said, and this is, it's really funny that you say this because I've watched tons of anime. And it seems that there's a fascination with Western religion, for one, and two, only devils. It's like, I guess because it's more interesting, there are very few anime that you would see that invoke religion and have both angels and demons. It would be like either or. Sometimes you have both, but most of the time they focus on devils. So that's how I treated it.
Hmm. Okay.
Because it's just like Black Clover. It has demons. Well, what about angels? Isn't that obvious? And it's pretty far along, but there probably won't be any angels coming into play. And I kinda some people think that it may come up in Chainsaw Man, but I'm not 100% sure. Because again, going back to this whole public safety thing, maybe they're angels who are running that whole thing. It could be.
Mm, wow, that's a good idea. That's a interesting concept.
And I mean, I could see angels not having problems as devils as subordinates at that really low level, you know. They're not making any decisions or anything like that. And that would make more sense that they're trying to, clean up the whole devil situation.
That's really like, that's as someone who has not read ahead, that's like a really good, like, whoa.
I mean, that's what I was thinking. If you would invoke angels, that's how I see it. And I don't remember if they mentioned God. It's I don't know. In very few anime do I really see them have both. There's like
Very
this big
few.
fascination with demons and devils.
And that's my whole thing is like, I feel like because of the whole idea that whatever you can fear, there's a devil for it. If you introduce a tomato devil, I feel like you have to have the god devil, the whatever devil. Like there has to be this mention of angels if
Oh,
you're gonna go that
that's.
far.
Mhm. I don't know. We'll see, but I mean, I don't see that happening.
Mhm.
I don't. It also depends how long Fujimoto is gonna carry
Yeah,
this on.
because like you said, like this anime really is like it's kind of like more modernized, right? Like it
Hmm.
mimics kind of like modern day society a little bit, you know?
Right, because it takes on all of these problems too. Because you could literally have a devil of anything, starvation, you know.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, I mean, it's all up to the author, you know. It's all up to him which direction he's gonna take it. And my intuition is he's not gonna invoke them because he wants this to be dark. That's
Mm,
the impression that I got.
okay, I can see that. Okay.
It's all dark.
I mean, yeah, like even like we said before, like even the protagonist, dark, like his whole upbringing, dark, you know.
Yeah,
And it's not just oh nobody likes me. It's like dark, like period. Like my mom is dead. My dad commits suicide. He hangs himself. It's dark. It really is.
yeah. I mean, from the first time you see this guy, he's got a patch on his eye,
Yeah,
but
and like he's swallowing cigarettes. Like how low does it get? And like that's it. I'm not gonna lie. Like it really made me sad. Like yo, like it really to me, like you said, like it really captured um I want to say like how this character suffers and kind of like um it to me it does a really good job of just like capturing the evils of society, like poverty. Like
Mhm.
that's like without even knowing a poverty devil, we see poverty. Like
Yeah,
you know,
extreme poverty.
extreme poverty, like, and I imagine, like, that's what extreme poverty really looks like he is happy to swallow that cigarette if it means it's gonna get him an extra dollar, whatever it's gonna be, you know? And he's happy to just, like, have this slice of bread with pochito, like, he aspires really to do nothing else. He said, "This is my life, and this is as good as it gets. I can hope for more, but I'm not expecting anything," you know?
Yeah. I mean, his aspirations were really it's just
Yeah,
bare minimum survival. A
yeah.
luxury would have been bread with the jam,
And I feel like he
of
says
course.
that I feel like he said that when he was in the car with Makima, right? He said, like, "This is
Yeah,
the, kindest anyone's ever treated me, like,
yeah,
this is I'm living the life now, I get to eat" what did he say? Like, "I get to, like, choose my meals," or something like that. He said, like,
yeah.
"The fact that I can, like, choose these things now, I'm living the life."
And
Like, this
also,
is
he doesn't. Normally, people don't want him around because he stinks. It's
yeah.
something that also you couldn't really see too, but they didn't emphasize it. I mean, he's poorer than poor. He's not taking showers. Yeah, so people didn't really even want to get near the guy.
I felt like, there was some poetic justice to it too a little bit. Excuse me. I felt like, because we even learned in the beginning, like, he sold one of his nuts, right? He sold one of his
Yeah.
testicles. And yet this guy, like we see this guy, he loves to punish people by kicking them in the nuts. I was like, "Yo,
Yeah.
that's something I
So
would probably do."
Aki and the katana.
Yes. I was like, "That's something I would probably do. If I had to sell my nut, I'm kicking every one of you in the nuts. Like, if I get a chance to, that's what I'm doing."
Yeah,
So,
I also thought it was weird that he sold those. I know it's to show how dire the situation is, but and I know in Asia the organ trade is something really big.
mm,
But you would think it'd be like a kidney. You know
Right,
what I
yeah. Like,
mean?
I never heard of a testicle, like, just one, like
And an eyeball. I could see the usage of that, but I mean, I don't even think they're really doing surgeries like that. It would be something synthetic rather than the actual part. Yeah, so I thought that was kind of weird. They just tried to show it's really a dire situation. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you saw anything about Fujimoto. He had like two videos on YouTube, and in one of the videos, he's trying to levitate.
okay.
He's a really weird guy. And some of his other works are really crazy. Like in one of his stories, it involves these two siblings. He loves to have this whole family thing in there. That was his earlier works that he had like them with questionable relationships with one another. But anyway, so their power is that they can regenerate their body, right?
Mm,
So like if you take a piece of their flesh, it'll regrow and everything like that. And they grew up in extreme poverty. Their village was gonna die. And you know what the recommendation was in order to save the village? Eat their flesh.
of course.
So they that was like the gist of
If
the
you
story.
like, I'm not really, knowledgeable about directors and writers and stuff like that, but if you told me this guy had written for, like, My Hero, I'd be shook because it seems like he's a dark person, that's what I'm getting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, this is his other story. So, his other popular story. Some of his works, and he's young, by the way. He's
Oh,
actually, he's one of the, I would say one of the best writers because he started at such a young age and he's doing so well.
mhm,
I don't know where he's going to go after this one. And also, it's Mappa who's doing the animation, and they're
mhm.
one of the top studios. So this is one of, I don't know if there's anybody that young who's done so well, but you don't know if it's going to be sustained. He is a weird guy. Next one could be going left. You don't know.
I'm really like I'm really excited to kind of like start reading the manga because I don't really want to wait for the next season. I really feel like this is such a good story, and like you said, it flips everything that we've been introduced to so far on its head. So I really like that about this anime. Um, and I really feel like this was a great way to kind of like wrap up the season, the anime, so to speak. Um, and it was really nice talking with you, someone who's, as we said, read ahead, has read the manga, and kind of gives us some insight into really where this story is going and what to expect. So, yeah, I think that's kind of like the the message, I guess, at the end of the day is like we all need to start reading the manga, basically. Like this story is too good to kind of just wait for the season.